Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Am I going to get the old Will Smith slap tonight?
Maybe.
Okay. Give me your best shot.
Is that what you were expecting?
No. I'm still standing.
Yes, you are.
I learned a long time ago not to expect anything.
Right. You're correct.
But I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay. So, I guess my idea of enlightenment, and I guess you would never know unless you were enlightened, has been wrong. So, I thought that once you were enlightened, you were an unlimited being, and everybody who's enlightened could do all the same things. So Sai Baba, I believe that's why he was, who materialized, I forget what it's called, out of thin air. Muktananda, who hit me on the head with a feather, who supposedly, if you had an addiction, I think it might have just been to cigarettes, if you left the cigarettes, and he's supposedly supposed to clear that. And then there was the young boy, I forget what his name is, I don't know if there was anything special. And then there's Bhagwan, who had, it seemed to me, the most charisma of any of them, and had the most knowledge, and just was, of course he's my teacher and my guru, so of course I would think this way, but even if it still seems like it's so true that even though I'm prejudiced, still seems like it's true. So I thought, so does that mean that you can become enlightened, but you have certain talents, and that not everybody who's enlightened can heal, and not everybody that's enlightened knows all about Jesus and Lao Tzu and Muhammad and Krishna and et cetera, et cetera?
An enlightened being may or may not have natural knowledge of other enlightened beings. This is not necessary. However, they are, in truth, the same being. For example, this vessel has limited knowledge of Bhagwan. However, she shares all of Bhagwan at this time. So the distinction is the difference between the mind, a knowing of the mind, and a sharing of the soul. In other words, there are a vast number of details concerning Bhagwan, his ways, his person, his teachings, which she is not familiar whatsoever. However, the truth is all that Bhagwan is, all his ways, all his teaching, all his being is resident in her, and in you as well. The difference is she is receptive to embracing all aspects and this understanding, whereas you embrace some at times, all at others, but not all at all times. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I see what you're saying. But, so does that mean if I could open myself up and embrace everything about Joshua, I could heal people?
Well, Joshua healed many, and others did not heal. True.
Oh, I didn't know.
Scripture says plainly he did not heal all. In some places, and in others it says he healed all. Well, the difference being this: in some instances he healed all. In that instance, all that were present, that were sick. In other times, in his timeline, he healed some, but not all. In fact, there was one city, it is said that when he went to that city, he left there without healing anyone. And the scripture says he was hindered because of their unbelief. And so, to answer your first question, I thought enlightened beings were unlimited beings. Yes, enlightened beings are unlimited beings. So, in truth, this vessel could do anything she wants to do at this juncture. All things are acceptable for her. All things are possible for her. However, she will defer in many instances because of another's unbelief. Her understanding is that in a particular situation, because of another's unbelief, it is not helpful for her to implement what is possible. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. So, if I believe that she can heal my arm, she should be able to heal my arm.
Yes, that is correct. She is absolutely capable of healing your arm.
Okay.
However, you do not believe that she is capable of healing your arm. Your egoic nature cannot accept that you, the healer, should be healed by your wife.
Yeah, maybe, but I have had moments where I really thought I should get her to stick needles in me, not necessarily because of the needles going in me, but because of the love and the healing that she would give
Exactly. Me. Now you are getting closer to your answer. Think back to Bhagwan and the young prima Vipassana that you took to the beach.
Yeah.
Why did Bhagwan not heal her?
Oh, good question.
Ask your God self, could Bhagwan heal her?
I believe it without a doubt he could. I mean,
yes.
I have no doubt.
Yes, he was absolutely capable of completely healing her.
And I remember him saying, now I don't know, I didn't really believe him when he said this, but he said that he did not do miracles, but he did miracles in my life, for sure. But I think, he meant like, I don't know, extraordinary things, or wasn't going to show off that he could pull something out of thin air like Sai Baba or something like that. But yeah, because I think there are times when moving on, when getting out of this body is somebody's highest good.
Most certainly. And so it is the enlightened one's decision in that sense to implement the power of all of their infinite possibilities, the possibility of their choosing, or to defer to the separate individual. You see, enlightened beings are gentlemen and gentlewomen. They most certainly could insist upon their way. They most certainly could do miracles, exhibit magic, or however you would like to describe it. However, they prefer to do what is most in alignment with the wishes and desires of the individual. In this way, they acknowledge the God-likeness of the individual.
I got it.
Respect is of utmost importance.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if they were to continually override the will of the individual, how would the individual awaken to the truth that they are creating their own reality?
Yeah. No, I understand. I see exactly what you're saying. It makes sense.
So, going back to the illustration of Christ, in some towns, in some crowds in some specific moments of time, he healed everyone present. Was this possible? Yes, most certainly, and he showed it to be so. In other instances, he did not heal because he would be forcing his will upon the others who were in truth in disbelief and not ready.
Yeah, I remember a story that he couldn't heal people in his own village because they knew him and didn't believe he could do it, but he could heal people that didn't know him in a different village.
Yes, they said, "Oh, who is this? He is just Joseph the carpenter's son. He's just a lowly carpenter. He's not a spiritual person." And so, for this reason, it was difficult for the vessel to receive healing through you, and it is difficult for you to receive healing through the vessel. Because to you, she is just a simple woman, a housewife, and not a healer.
But who else could heal but a mother and a simple housewife?
True. So you are closer and closer to being able to receive a healing through this vessel.
And, I already know this. I just realized that one of the things I do with my patients is I have to judge whether they believe I can heal them or not.
Exactly.
And then if they don't believe it, then I have to start. Then one of the reasons I tell them about past successes, like if they have a certain disease, I will tell past successes I had with that to try and get them to be open to the possibility that they could be healed and go from there. So yes, I totally understand that.
Yes, and this you must understand about enlightened beings. They have infinite amounts of patience. And as we said, are gentlemen, gentle women. They do not feel any need to force their way, their desire, a healing, a transformation upon anyone. They understand that transformation is a natural process with which they need not interfere. Why would Bhagwan or any other enlightened being interfere with your process? This is core to their belief that you are God, just as they are God. If you are God, why should they interfere with your awakening, your enlightenment, your transcendence? There is no need, for it will unfold naturally, just like a rose which opens its petals to the sun. So when you want to be healed, you will be healed.
Yeah, I already know that.
Yes, and as always, for all, easier said than done is the proverb, correct?
Yes. And I hope, or one of the things I think may be part of the problem, I haven't completely solved it yet, is I believe I've healed myself of many, many things.
Yes.
I had the basketball on my side.
Yes.
Which I named Wilson, of course, went away. The nail in my foot, which the doctor said I had to have my foot taken off or go to a salvage place to save my foot, and the next day he said, "Oh, I was wrong. It's already healing."
Yes.
And so one of the things that I used to do, which I think I got from crying, was to ignore something, not to give it energy, and I believe that helps. Now,
yes. And in the second case regarding your foot, you healed yourself in the face of many doubters and unbelievers, including your wife, was panicked and afraid. And the doctor, of course, you were able to arise above the unbelief and heal yourself.
Yes.
Outright reject it. So is there a part of your psyche at this time that is not able to outright reject the diagnosis?
So what I think is part of the issue, which I didn't think I would take on, but maybe I did, was that Cryon would keep saying it's hard for a healer to heal himself.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, well, I heard that and I didn't believe that, but I'm afraid that it might have got in to my unconscious mind. That's the only thing I can think of that's been different. And that's what I said when I first heard that, actually. But
He would have been better off to say that it is common for healers to lack faith to heal themselves. Do you hear the difference?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I could be not using the exact language, but that's what I thought I heard.
Right.
That
Yes.
it's hard for healers to heal themselves.
Well, this is, at times with all channelers, the mind can leak in a bit, meaning information, language messaging. So great discernment is needed, and you have said, on the whole, this channeler speaks to you very much, but there are times when your spirit says, no. A great lesson in staying awake and good sleuthing on your part.
Yes, and I realized when you tell me things, I do think and think. I try and figure things out. And when we were talking about having the young acupuncturist do my arm, and I had thought about that. When I thought about that, the reason that I didn't was because in the past I would just forget about it, and I thought, maybe didn't believe, but thought that if I just didn't think, that if I just forgot about it and didn't pay any attention to it, it would go away like that had worked for me in the past.
Yes. And it can again. The issue is not in the method. There are various ways you could attack, for lack of a better word, this issue. One would be to ignore. One would be have your wife to insert needles. One would be have the young acupuncturist to needle you. Lots of different ways you could approach it. The core issue is this: getting rid of the self-propelled engine.
And you're going to have to explain that one.
Okay, so remember we spoke of earlier the self-propelled engine. Tell me about the self-propelled engines.
I'm on a blank.
As in the self-propelled lawnmower. How does the self-propelled lawnmower operate?
Yeah, it pulls itself along. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
So I still don't understand.
So this is what we are wanting to address with you at this time, is being self-propelled. Okay, it's time. The self-propelled energy is old. It is over. All things must be God-propelled. God-propelled, not self-propelled. This is a slight, perhaps challenging distinction to make.
No, I got it.
Can you sense the difference between the two?
I know it, and I know that I'm afraid to let go completely.
Yes.
I know that.
So this is where you might employ what is called the release technique. For somewhere in your psyche, you are still attempting to heal yourself through your egoic psyche in a self-propelled manner. So when you completely release, let go of the self-propulsion. Allow God to propel you into healing. Difficult to explain, but we sense you sense the difference.
Yes, I do. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Our pleasure. So we would say this, perhaps in the course of the last 2 years, with the inundation of constant disease and fear concerning disease and striving in the culture for healing and physical welfare, perhaps you have been slimed a bit. And so in the past, where it would be simple for you to heal your foot or your arm or whatever, you've been quite slimed by this COVID situation, and so it has set you back a bit in the faith department. So as you lay aside the self-propulsion and let God propel you forward into healing, reclaim the faith that you lost prior to this pandemic. And if you need to borrow a little faith from your wife or another acupuncturist or any such person, that is fine. But I think you know you have the faith within to heal yourself.
Yes, but I do like the idea of using somebody else right now.
And that is fine. People do it all the time with you. You can lend your faith. You do it constantly in your work. And it works. And they are healed because they may not believe in themselves, but they believe in you. If it were raining outside and your wife did not want to get cold and wet, but she had no umbrella, she would not feel bad in the least to ask you if she could borrow your umbrella. And no harm done, true?
True.
She can always buy an umbrella at the store, and have her own, but by that time she would already be soaking wet. So why not just borrow yours?
Yes.
So, see, this is American thinking that causes you to think you must be self-propelled, self-sufficient, independent, providing for yourself. You are like a silly man who drives to the store to buy a new umbrella, all the while getting soaked on the way to the store when you could just simply borrow your wife's. Not very smart, eh?
Yeah.
So shed this American, independent, self-serving thinking and borrow your wife's umbrella if she has one, and I think she does.
But then I can't say, look at me, I'm getting wet and I'm going to the store to get an umbrella.
Oh, trust me, she will not mind in the least little bit to borrow yours when she has forgotten hers.
And I'm happy to give it to her. She's smarter than I am.
And think so many, many times when she was unwell and knew she was, or thought she was unable to heal herself, she still had faith in your ability and was able to take comfort from that.
I got it. I see it now. I see what happened. I thought I could heal her. I thought I could heal her. And I wasn't. And that's what got me.
Yes. Your faith took quite a beating.
thinking I knew of a way, and then it didn't work, and I thought I knew of another way, and it didn't work, and yeah, it just...
In truth, it had nothing to do with you, for she was at a place in her spiritual journey where she had to learn to heal herself. She had to rise up. She had to break out of her own cocoon, and no one on the planet, not even the Christ himself, could have healed her in that moment, for she needed to become the Christ.
And I see that now, and I realize this is the best thing that ever happened to her. And so I guess where I could have done better is had faith that this is what needs to be now.
She knew this intuitively, but couldn't quite put words to it. She was feeling around in the dark like a blind man, but knew she must find her own answer with God, and she did ultimately. However, it was somewhat to your detriment because of your love and care for her, and we do not wish you to admonish yourself in any way, for you were quite valiant. So now allow your shield of faith to be repaired from this whole ordeal, and allow your faith in yourself and your healing gift to be restored.
Yes.
For in truth, you could have done nothing differently that would have helped her. And now you see another reason for your original question. There were times when Bhagwan or the Christ or other enlightened beings did not heal another because they knew that one needed to struggle for their own healing in order to develop muscle, a spiritual muscle.
Yes, and this was part of me losing faith because I knew she had a connection with Joshua. I knew she did, and I would say to her sometimes, use that power to heal you. You know, I'd call on Joshua. I probably said Jesus, but to heal yourself, and I kept not understanding, you know, why, because of her connection to him, that did not happen.
And she had completely disregarded her relationship with the Christ and felt herself to be lost from the Christ forever. So these statements of yours were very important to help guide her back. In truth, she threw out the baby with the bathwater when she left her husband, her children, her home, her dogs, her job, her faith, her church, all of those things. She left God behind as well. For she could not imagine that God would make such a journey with her. This did not align with her concept of God at all.
Yes.
Why would God go with one who abandoned her family, abandoned her faith, abandoned her church, her community, her students, her co-workers? Why? Why would God go with such a one? So the truth is, you did heal her because you persisted in what you knew to be true. You persisted in your words. You persisted and you were successful.
Yes, it's another way of looking at it. Yes. Thank you.
You will not want to hear this, but in truth, it was the 12-step program that is responsible for her reunion with me.
Good.
In a fresh and more accurate way.
Yes, after her telling me a little bit more about it, I had no idea about it. I just remember I made a judgment based on what I heard was that in the 12-step program, they said if you were an addict, you would always be an addict. And to me, I don't think that has to be true. I think you can truly be healed.
Yes, most certainly. The program teaches that everyone must have their own understanding of God. And that no one can define God for you. And so this gave her the space, the freedom, the acceptance, the non-judgmentalism to examine what she thought about God. And there she began to perceive that perhaps God is the God of adulterers. Perhaps God is the God of housewives hooked on pills. Perhaps God is the God of depressed mothers, mothers who have deeply wounded their children. You see, in this program, she began to understand that God is the God of those who have hit bottom. And in so doing, she could finally allow herself to hit the bottom and then look up. This is why she presses you concerning the children. For example, what if your precious son, who is so extraordinary and miraculous, what if he were not?
Well, it wouldn't make any difference to me. But if he sold drugs and had a gun, that would make a difference. It doesn't mean I wouldn't love him, but I would not like his behavior, and I would have to try and figure out what I needed to do to not empower him to be that way.
Yes. Yes.
And I guess that was what my judgment was is she, to me, speaking your mind and saying, this is wrong. Why are you doing this? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, and maybe she did that. I don't know. Maybe I made a wrong judgment, but it seems like to me that that's also a parent's job.
Yes, you were correct in that she lacked emotional honesty, directness with the child, with all the children. You were correct in that. And as you persisted with this truth, she was ultimately able to rise to the occasion and speak the truth.
And I also kind of felt that a lot of what she was doing was out of guilt.
Yes, that is correct. However, she is not operating in guilt anymore.
No, the other night when she was talking to her daughter, she was absolutely amazing.
So you may give yourself a pat on the back for all your efforts in persisting in the truth that you knew. For it ultimately bore fruit. And you will see all 3 children will change now, quite dramatically.
Yeah, I think about them a lot now.
And your son will continue to excel and even do extraordinary, miraculous things. You will tell people the stories of it, and they will not believe you. And all of these will be, all 4, we will say 5 to include the son-in-law. These 5 children of yours will be quite extraordinary, and it is the fruit of your plowing for many decades. You have plowed very, very hard ground in the over culture, and this vessel has been the one good seed planted in your well-plowed soil. And so you may share in the harvest. And these 5 children and all grandchildren to come will also benefit beyond your imagination.
And I benefit from them.
Yes. So there will be occasional resurgences of the disease, but they will be managed, and they will not wreak the emotional, spiritual, and physical devastation from before. And so this is a healing time for all, and a time to reclaim faith and new perspective.
Good.
So come in out of the rain, borrow your wife's umbrella, silly one, and if you need to, she shall even hold it up over your head while you walk to your destination, and be well.
What if it's pink?
You like pink.
Yes, I do. Okay.
This vessel first really enjoyed your pink shoes when she first met you. You were the only man she had ever met who would dare to wear pink shoes, and she liked this very much.